by asking the people who had to wait 10 days for their garbage to be removed from their homes in 90-degree heat. One of them was my daughter. She called me, asked me what I was going to do about it. And I said, there's not much I can do about it right now. I'm not the mayor yet. But I'll fix it when I am. I believe that you lose a lot of control when you privatize. Some of the people that were working very effectively, very efficiently on the garbage lines had to be transferred to other duties and now are getting paid less than they got paid before. Some of the complaints you hear from city carting is that they throw things, garbage can ends up across the street or in the middle of the road getting hit by a car. You lose control over your employees. The City of Norwalk employees become pretty much a family. They take pride in their workmanship. They want to be a part of the family, and they want to do a good job, and they want to be recognized. To give a 10-year contract, which is unheard of, to one organization is, to me, is just absurd. I think you, again, you lose control over who you hire, you lose control, you lose the ability to interview people, to do a proper vetting process, to make sure they're doing their job properly, and you give up that kind of control on a very, very important function such as trash collection, recycling, or whatever. It's just not appropriate, and privatization has its limitations. There may be some cost savings in the beginning, but after a while, if you privatize, you start to sell your soul, because you just cannot keep giving away city jobs to private contractors.
Garfunkel.
Yes. Privatization is a dangerous road to go down, as we have seen. We did, again, Harry has mentioned it, it's a 10-year contract. We've already run into one of the obstacles of garbage collection. When we had our own staff, you'd call these guys in, they'd report to duty, and they would do their job. This company has invested in machinery, trucks, that we will not get, that we are financing for this company. After 10 years, it's going to be a decade before we even find out if this has been financially viable for the city of Norwalk. In the meantime, there are workers that have shifted their jobs or making less money. We as a community, and we as the party who represents workers, can't let this happen. When the storm hit, when we needed people to clear the roads, these guys were there for us. These workers were there. They were called in, they did their job. Might have been overtime, but you know what? That's part of running a city. That is keeping the city open, running, and working for the community, so that we as citizens, as taxpayers, can go about our lives. And we give back to the community because we can access what we need to access in the city. But privatization is not the answer. It's a dangerous area to go into. We're there, but who knows what's going to happen in the future. But we need to be loyal to our workers. We need to be loyal to those who live in our community and work side by side with us, who have jobs and try to put food on the table for their families as well.
This kind of brings something home to me. Some of you may remember a photograph of me with a bullhorn. I was one of those that led the fight against privatization, because it was no surprise what was going to happen. Employees got their wages cut. We gave a 10-year no-bid contract to a company that had to go out and purchase the equipment they had never used before. They're now using that equipment to market their services to other communities in the city, in the state of Connecticut, and you're paying for it. Right? That's the reality. And I was there, and I took a pretty heavy price for that. I suffered the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune led by some of the folks that are in this audience tonight. And I was not afraid to do that because it was the right thing to do. Now, the fact of the matter is, not all privatization is bad, as long as employees are protected. There are two kinds of privatization. There's privatization that comes where there are economies of scale. A great example could be food service, where a big company can buy a lot of stuff and provide it at a cheaper cost than a small community can. And as long as you protect the employees, then that kind of contracting makes sense. But contracting on the backs of workers, which is what this was, and contracting to a company that never performed this service with the equipment that they went out and purchased, and gave them a 10-year, no-bid contract to do it, that was wrong. I said so then, I took the heat, and I say so again today.
Thanks, Matt. To Matt's point too, you know, again, when the lights weren't on this past fall, when this argument was this debate was happening right here in this room, you know, I was here. I wasn't on the council floor, but I was standing up and fighting against privatization because I know what it would do to the morale of our city, to the morale of our workers here. So I was honored to speak that night and say no to privatization, folks, because exactly what happened Memorial Day weekend, we could see it coming a mile away. And it hit home for me because this 10-year contract to a company, 3 10-year contracts when you think about it, to a company that has such a reputation. Now, granted, they've given some dollars to the mayor. They've made political contributions to his campaign. Not to say that there's any, you know, not to say anything was a quid pro quo or anything like that. But it makes you wonder. You know, I had a friend, right? So I have a friend, you know, that modest means he's going to work hard 2 or 3 jobs for the rest of his life. He goes from job to job from time to time, and one of those jobs was with city carting, picking up recycling for those folks. And he would have to get there at 2:30 in the morning for his shift. And I'll tell you, he was making $10 an hour. He had to be there at 2:30 in the morning. They would work until 6 at night. 6 at night, every single day. He tore his meniscus in his knee, slipping on ice. You know what they said? Come to work or get laid off. That's the kind of things that have been happening. That's the kind of control you lose from privatization. When we have people in our community that pick up garbage, that are public employees, public workers, they get to know the neighborhood, they get to know the people, they get Christmas cards from these folks. They get Christmas cards. You know, they interact, they know that, you know, John's going to come pick up the garbage on Tuesday morning at 9 o'clock. All right, sometimes John gets there at 6:30 in the morning because John's got, you know, he's got some stuff he's got to do that day. But the garbage gets picked up and you can trust that the job's going to get done right. And we've lost that control, we've lost that mentality here in Norwalk. Thank you.